a little bit about what we say, how we say it, what we mean, and maybe sometimes what we really mean. And for example, sometimes if you ask somebody a question, they will say, to be really honest with you, and then they will go on to the answer. And they probably mean this, that we should have more confidence in what they are saying because they are being honest with us. But whenever I hear it, I'm thinking, what about the times you don't say to be honest with you? Does it mean that you're not being honest at those times and you're only sometimes being honest? And another tricky thing like that is, if you're from a country where homeschooling is not legal, could you raise your hand?
That is a lot.
If homeschooling is not legal in your country, can you raise your hand?
Wow.
Right. So this is, I don't think there's any country where it is illegal to do the things that are done at school, at home. You can teach maths, you can teach language, you can teach all of the things they teach in school at home, and I don't think it's illegal. But what is illegal is not sending your child to school. Some of you may be working with children who have ADHD, and when we talk about attention deficit disorder and hyperactive disorder, something that isn't said so much is attention to what? Is it an inability to pay attention to what I want to pay attention to? Or an inability to pay attention to what somebody else wants me to pay attention to? And I think these two are very different things and have different answers. Thank you. The values in a culture embed themselves into the language of the culture, and then those values express themselves when we use the language, even sometimes when we're not conscious of it. And for example, in English, you can say I love you to a person. You can also say I love beer. But not all languages are like that. Like in Estonian, for example, we would say you like beer, mulle meeldib, right? But love is for people. Now, the problem with having the same word in English for these two is that when you say you love beer, beer is a thing that I possess. And I can do whatever I want with the beer doesn't care. But when you use the same language to people, it also has that same possessive thing. And so you can sometimes think of a person the same way you might think of a beer. And this gets actually even more interesting. So some friends had visited another country and had been really upset by how badly animals were treated in that country. And then later they had realized that in that country the word for animal literally means things that move. So animal is not something that is alive, it's just something that happens to move, like a bus or something like that. And so it's not treated in the same way that you might treat something that's alive. And where this gets more interesting for us in education is the language we use with children. So, have you ever put your child to bed? Put your child to bed? Yeah? Okay. I'm not sure how it works, for example, in German, but in English, put is a verb that you do to things. You can put your clothes in the cupboard. You can put the plates in the dishwasher. So put is something you do to a thing. And the reason we use those words with children is because in the evolution of language, children were considered things. They were not people. On one of the conversations we had here, somebody was talking about, I'm worried about giving freedom to children. So here, when I say, I am giving freedom to her maybe, what the language is saying is that this freedom is mine and I can give it. So like I have a toy, I can give it. But how can somebody else's freedom be mine to give to them? Right? So the language is problematic because if I can give her freedom, I can also take it back. And then it's not really freedom. A few more words about children. We talk about raising children. What other things do we raise? We tend to raise crops like rice or wheat, and we raise livestock. We can be raising cattle or pigs. And we use the same word for children. But this is really scary, because if I'm raising chickens, I only do it because I'm going to get eggs or meat. And if this chicken is not able to give me that, then I get rid of the chicken. And I hope we don't have that kind of relationship with our children. And then maybe we should reflect that by using different language. Because if we did not raise our children, would they not raise themselves? So this is not to say that we don't have a role in it, just being aware that it's not only we that raise children. We talk about parenting children. Right? So parenting is also something that is done to the child. And what about, is there nothing happening to us in that process? Sometimes I say that I will only accept that I am parenting my child if you also accept that my child is childing me. And last year, Charlie actually suggested a slightly different way of describing this that's not so awkward, in that we are accompanying each other. And in this journey of life, sometimes we will be more close, and sometimes we will be further apart, but it's something that we can do together. And so I much prefer to think that I'm accompanying rather than parenting, because then my child is also accompanying me. And the last thing I want to say about language is that when we give something a name, it comes into existence. So we are used to thinking of, am I a parent or am I not a parent? But there is a word called alloparent, which is somebody who does the kind of things that parents do, but isn't actually the parent. So if you are in a relationship of whether it's teaching or whether it's guiding or talking about something or even playing with a child, then you are an alloparent. And I think if we were to think less that this is my child and what am I doing to raise or parent my child, but rather that I have an alloparenting relationship with many children, and how do I show up in each of those relationships, then I think the way that all of us relate to children will be very different. So thank you.